Jolene with Jolene's Perspective, here with Steve Hofstetter to talk about his new website.
So yeah, the idea is that it's supposed to be magic for any touring artist,
Yeah,
and that's why the logo has a little wizard's hat. And also, we even just recently added a thing where, if because not everybody can afford to pay for the pro account,
right.
so we added a little thing we call it mana, because keeping on theme. And the idea is that if you add to the data, you can use the data as well. So it's, kind of a community aspect of it, the collaboration.
Are you a little bit of a gaming nerd too? Because you got to pay mana and Magic the Gathering and
Well, I am first and foremost a nerd, but I was big into Magic the Gathering when I was in high school, which was about 1,000 years ago. But yeah, mana is is definitely a gaming term, a common gaming term, but I was looking for something a little more than like site points or something like that.
or credits.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's fine. But I do like that, and so I love that you have the pay as you go layer. Is there any thought about maybe in the future doing, like annual subscriptions? I can't remember if I
So
saw
there is
there.
there is a discount for annual subscriptions. The idea of the site is that it is completely free to use. Most of the features on the site are free. What people end up paying for is the ability to be less annoyed, basically. If there's a limit per search, there's a limit of contacts you can download, of things like that. And so the idea is that even the pro account is a very low barrier of entry. It's $9 a month, or I think about $100 a year because there's a discount. And the premise is that if you book 1 gig using the site, it more than pays for itself. And even when you get to the executive level, if you're booking 1 gig a month, it more than pays for itself. And if people are high volume users, they can go all the way to the industry level. And on that, they can, that's when they can really download the email addresses. They can, get all the information instead of just using the site to email people. And the basic idea is that it's not free to run or host the site, but we want it to be very low cost, very easy to use. For those who are just dabbling in touring, they can use the free version. And also the free accounts allow you to not only see a lot of the information, but also use the route planner and things like that. And that's actually, so the route planner was the first part of the site. That was the first thing I did.
Wondering if you had any stories behind how you kind of got everything going.
Yeah, so I have a weirdly encyclopedic regional geographic knowledge, and it's because I've been touring for 25 years. And so if you were to ask me what's the best way to tour through Iowa, like I could name 4 or 5 markets immediately and the order in which you should play them based on their geography. Now, once I started booking for other acts and then I hired Bailey Irvin to book as well, I realized not everyone just has that knowledge. And so, this is something that we could use a little help with. And it's one thing to look at a map and go, okay, I think this can work. And it's another thing to know where the populations are, what's the halfway point, things like that. And so having a computer be able to give you that knowledge is a lot more helpful.
And the really cool thing is that you can also see where other bands, you can put their plots in. So for instance, Fish just did their summer tour, and there were a few bands that just did all the pre-parties along the whole route, so they would just book the smaller venues. And so um like I was able to pull it up and kind of figure out how they could do it in there, and it was super easy. And even photographing venues around in Charlotte, there were some in there that I don't think I even had heard of before. So there's
Yes.
some really cool stuff in there. It's really awesome.
Yeah, it's got almost 300,000 venues in it. Now, some of them, some of, the information is people who lied on the internet and said they were a venue when they weren't. And the more the sites use, the more we get rid of stuff like that. But it is a community. So the more use, the smarter it gets. But also, one of the big things that the site does is it tells you what markets you missed also. like it'll not only say, like you could say, okay, I'm in Philly this day and I'm in Pittsburgh that day. Where should I play in between? And it might tell you Harrisburg or York or State College or something like that. But then whether you do it nationally, internationally, by state, etc., you can break it down a bunch of ways. It can literally tell you, hey, you're completely missing out on this huge metro area. Like you have 80 tour stops and that's great, but you forgot Philly. Or you have 80 tour stops and that's great, but what about this suburb of New Jersey that's actually within an hour of 10 million people? And that's what the site does.
That's gonna help so many people. Like even, like these smaller artists that deserve to be seen, like it's great that they're gonna have this tool now. And when it comes to larger tours like the one you're on, has it made doing, countries easier for you? Like do you have you used it for your current tour? And
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, because of my wife's brother is military and was stationed in Florida. So his family is, in the Florida panhandle where like I don't know what the hell's there. And so they just had a kid and we're headed down there to visit and help and etc. And so all of a sudden I've got these couple of days where I'm like, well, if I book one show here, that'll pay for the trip and that'll take care of everything. And I was like, but where the hell do I play? But the cool thing is the site has a radius feature. So I just put in where they are. I put in 50 miles and I just took a couple of clicks, sent out a bunch of emails, and I started getting offers back. And now I've got a show at a resort in Destin. And I've got I think I've already got 40% of the room sold and it's been under a week. And it was just all bang, 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 exactly like that. And what's cool is the venue never would have filled that night otherwise. And I
yeah,
wouldn't have had a place to play. And it helps us both.
yeah, that's really neat. And I was kind of wondering on the other side for the venues. So it's kind of an interesting scenario. So there's a lot of affluent, senior citizen communities that have amphitheaters and things like that. Like I'm sure that's not on there because obviously they're not a venue, but it like in the future, could people request to have a performer come to their venue and then it could be listed maybe as like looking for, you know, 4 shows a year or something like that? Or
Well, right now we're completely on the artist side. The
okay.
venues are able to, but the venues are able to edit their information.
Okay.
There is a mode where they can opt for a pro account, which can allow them to add extras of photos and and other things that can attract an artist to their venue. But anyone who has a venue, and it does not matter if it is an amphitheater in a senior citizen community or
Anything
a
qualifies.
2,000 seat theater, anywhere they are willing to hire talent,
All right.
and not just hire talent, but door splits and things like that as well.
Okay.
It is absolutely free for them to enter in their venue, as long as they are entering it in with the same email the site has for their venue. They can claim a profile and they can edit the information, they can add to it, etc. We just had, just yesterday, a venue in Rockport, Maine, which is, coastal Maine, halfway between Portland and Bangor
Hmm.
or Bangor. I think it's however you pronounce. The point is, I don't know the area well enough to even pronounce it correctly. And I do shows in both of those markets, but I don't do anything in between. And they had reached out on the site and they're like, "Hey, we have this 800 seater, and we are looking to get listed." Turns out they already were listed because we have a lot of venues. Um, but they told me what they were looking for, and I was like, "Hey, I have a day off next year where I'm in Maine and looking for something, and now we're already talking contract." And like that's the coolest thing about it is that these independent venues and they used to work with IMG and they don't anymore. And now they're on their own and they're independent and they're looking for artists and so they can use the site as well.
I just love it. I just started learning booking and I started on my spreadsheet and Google and just trying to find it by zip code and hoping for the best. And uh it's just Man, it's so great.
Thank you. And one of the cool things is some of the users that have gotten into it really early, like they understand that
Yeah,
we want to change. We're flexible, we're new, and so like there's one user that's probably sent us like 8 different ideas for, hey, what if it could do this? What if it could do that, etc. And I think we've implemented all but one of them.
that's so
And
cool. That's great. I love that.
yeah, we want it user friendly.
So
I'm coming at it like a comedian.
I'm just kidding.
And like for instance, okay, there was a user the other day that sent us something. They're a magician that doesn't want to play typical magic venues. And so they asked if, and something I had never considered before, could we have a filter where you filter out a name of a venue? And so we changed it to that, and now he did a search where he did every venue without magic in the name. And that immediately pulls away all the venues he doesn't want to play. And I had never considered that before.
That's really neat. All right, I've got a couple not related to that question
Okay.
for you, but I want to make sure I ask them. So, something that Natalie Brooke, um, she's a badass guitar player. She looks like Jim from the cartoon.
Okay.
All right, so she was wondering, would you ever consider supporting a feature for poster making either in app or through connections to artists to create individual show artwork and a tour poster? So that's a problem a lot of musicians are having right now, is finding those artists to make those posters. And then that way it would hopefully help, get rid of all the AI and give some real artists a chance to be seen. And so she's wondering if that's a feature that you would ever consider in the future.
That's a super cool idea. I don't think it's practical until we have a lot more users, just because we would need
Yeah.
enough of a user base because obviously that would be a paid feature,
Yeah.
because we'd want to make sure the artists get paid. But I love that. I love, connecting, and more than just, tour posters, but it'd be interesting to have just kind of an employment section of, people who can do freelance tour managing. Because people who do tour managing, unless you're managing one of the really big tours, you're only working a month or two a year.
Mm-hmm.
And so someone who's good at it could, you know, tour managing, videography, like there's so many ancillary aspects, merch sales. There's so many ancillary aspects that once we have enough of a user base that we could expand to.
That would be really neat. And I would say that, it was really interesting because I reached out to easily 100 bands to ask questions. And the main problem that people came up with when trying to come up with a question was that the site was so thorough that they couldn't think of anything that you hadn't already covered. So we really had to try hard for these.
That's awesome. I love that.
So the other one I got is from El Michelle in a band called Mighty Holler out of Colorado. And she would like to know if you have any plans to expand to include other artist benefits through organizations like Backline.
I don't know what.
I believe it's mental health, like for artists and performers and that sort of thing. Like, but maybe like, when you sign up for DoorDash, and I don't know if you ever have, but I have, and you get your little area, and it tells you, because you're a paid member, you have access to, I don't know, like certain health benefits, whatever, like through, like the Actors Guild, that sort of thing.
I would love that. I think that that's awesome. And we've had some bigger places reach out to us about like working with us, not on the charity side, not on the mental health side. And our take has been, cool, what can you do for artists? Because unless unless you're looking to buy us, what are you talking about? Like we're doing what we're doing already. And if you want to expand this so that it's better for artists, great. And if not, we have no design on working with you at all. And so the idea of mental health charity is fantastic. I was a house guy at the Laugh Factory in LA, and one of the programs that they instituted, because I mean, comedians have a tendency of dying before we should. And one of the programs that they instituted was they had a house therapist where your first, I think it was your first six, if you were like a past regular at the club, your first six sessions were free. And then after that, if you found it was for you and you wanted to continue, that was up to you. But the idea, it was introducing people to therapy. And so
That's
I think something like that would be wonderful.
that would be very cool.
But again, increase the user base. And one of the
I
ways that
I
one of the
don't
ways
think
that we're
you're
trying
gonna
to
worry about that for too long.
well, I appreciate that. But one of the ways that we're trying to do that is also we're doing a referral program so that people who there are artists that like I say, yeah, it's only $9 a month for the pro level. And there are people being like, I don't even have $9 a month.
That's
And
true.
that's fine because if you get a couple of other people to sign up, then you can use your account for free. And so we have it set up that way so that, again, it relies on community, it relies on word of mouth. And that also helps with the indie venues because these indie venues, when they're trying to compete with the Live Nations and the AEGs and things like that, it's very difficult to do. And so, if they've got this roster of 1,000 different, bands and comedians and slam poets and whoever has been playing or reaching out to them about playing it, send them an email, send an email blast, and you can either redeem it as free membership to the site or you can get cash for it. Because if people spread the word, it benefits everybody. Like I said, the more people who use it, the better the information gets, and just the easier it gets for everybody.
That's awesome. I've been blasting my code everywhere, so
Thank you.
I won't put it on here. I'll give other people a shot, but all right, well, this has been awesome, and I think it's really, really cool that you created this, and it's just gonna help so many people, and everyone I show it to is just like, whoa, that is exactly what I need, So it's everyone's really excited about it, and I wish I had had some harder questions for you, but um,
Well, I am glad to not have to do a hard-hitting interview about creating a product that people like that I'm not charging for. So,
PR
uh,
person's dream, right?
yeah, exactly. No, I'm very excited that that people do want to use this, and like I said, the more people who use it, the cooler the ideas that'll come through, and someone I'm sure will say, "Hey, why can't it do this?" And then some of the things I'll be like, "Well, that's purposeful," and then some of the things will be like, "Hey, great idea! I can't do that because I didn't think of it, and now that we have it, great, it can do that too." So that's the cool thing about it's a combination of being a programming nerd and software has come so far now that
Yeah.
that it's getting a lot easier.
Awesome. Well, as somebody who also lives in Charlotte, I gotta do you a solid because you're playing at Duckworth on August 23rd with a bunch of friends. Go see them. It's gonna be funny. I go to shows there a lot, and it's so fun if you're in the front row, unless you don't like to be heckled, then don't sit in the front row. So
Well, we don't. My rule is I don't talk to people who don't talk to me first. And
oh,
so, yeah. So, like, if I ever am doing crowd work, it'll be I'll either take questions or I'll ask an open ended question because some people do have severe social anxiety. But I don't know if you've been in the last week, but Duckworth's just finished their renovation. And the new Duckworth's is almost twice as big and it's
really?
gorgeous. And yeah, they basically took out the side wall and turned it 90 degrees.
So
And so,
you go up the stairs and it's in the
mhm.
tinier area. That's the only one I've been to. So I didn't even know they were renovating it.
So yeah, they did. It was like they did it in less than a week because all they did was basically they moved all the equipment over. They took out, so there was that side wall that divided it. And
Right.
so they took that out. They left, a couple of structural posts. And so now it went from 84 seats to I think 140 now. And not only that, but instead of it being like playing a long hallway, now it's the much easier and more traditional kind of wider venue. And yeah, I haven't even gotten to see it in person yet. I just got back into town but they've been sending me pictures and video and stuff and it's gorgeous. I can't wait.
And I can't wait either. I didn't even know about it. So
Yeah.
Merry Christmas to me. All right. Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. And I'll blast your message far and wide.
Thank you, Jolene. Appreciate you.